Unleash the power of purpose with impactful business voices, hosted by Nancy Backey and Anita Larson. Each week, you'll be inspired by stories from companies that are making a real difference in the world, and you'll learn practical tips on how to grow your business with an impact.
Welcome.
I am not Nancy.
You're not Nancy. Everybody's like, wait, this does not look like Nancy at all. but welcome back to Impactful Business Voices. As you can see, well, I'm still Anita Larson. This is not Nancy Backey. This is Russ Johns. We have an amazing guest host today. Welcome, Russ.
Hey, thank you so much, Anita. I'm looking forward to this. We have a wonderful guest, and it's always great to hang out with you and share a little bit of this information with the community. So thank you.
We're excited. So just to anyone watching and wondering what happened to Nancy, she's hosting a summit today and actually for the next couple of weeks. So if anybody want to learn more about it, feel free to go to abundantwinners.com and learn how to unlock the power of forming lasting business relationships. It's a 3-day online summit. So you can go there and learn more about it. So she will be back with us shortly. Some of you may have seen Russ on a prior podcast episode, actually. And he's actually here with us every week. He helps us so much as our show producer in the background. But now we're happy to have him back in front of the camera. So thank you so much, Russ, for covering for Nancy this week.
Well, and thank you. It's an honor and a pleasure to hang out. And I think that this episode is a perfect opportunity because we're talking about health and some of the things that business owners need to make an impact for their own lives. And as a producer and somebody that's helping a lot of different business owners do creative work, oftentimes we fail to focus on what's important, and that's our health. So I'm excited to talk about this and hear more from our guest today.
So let's introduce our guest. I'm excited too. We have Dr. Jin-Xiong She with us here today. Welcome. I'm going to call you Jin. So Jin is a distinguished professor, eminent scientist, serial entrepreneur, and he's most importantly, the reason he's here with us today is he's the founder and CEO of Jinfiniti Precision Medicine. So we're going to talk to him about how his company, the goal of his company is increasing our longevity using cutting edge science paired with ancient Chinese philosophy. So it's going to be exciting. Looking forward to it. So welcome, Jen.
It's my pleasure.
So do you want to just kind of dive into tell us what is Jinfiniti? What is it all about? What do you do?
Well, simply, Jinfiniti is a company that we started to help doctors and individuals to promote health and to extend lifespan. Some of your viewers may wonder what lifespan. Well, lifespan is the number of years that you can stay healthy. You can perform at your peak level. And it's basically how many years you can perform when you are young. And lifespan is really the most important goal that every one of us wants to extend and want to maximize. Some of us may talk about longevity. Well, longevity is how many years you can live, which is great. You know, I want to be immortal, and many people want to be immortal if possible. But I don't think that at this particular moment we can achieve immortality yet. But everyone can maximize their lifespan. And we have the solutions, we have the technologies to do it right now.
There's a lot of extended lifespans today compared to 100 years ago. You know, the lifespan of an average male was 58 years old, and 100 years ago. And so we've expanded the lifespan considerably. And I know that there's a lot of octogenarians in Asian countries more than in the US. And so what do you see as the difference between Western medicine and the Eastern medicine that allows people to extend their longevity?
Yeah, I think the differences are many, and the main difference may not be the medicine. I think it's more the lifestyle that we will practice. It's the food that we eat, how much, when, and what kind. And it's the physical activities that we may not have. And unfortunately, in most developed countries, and you can call me mostly Western countries, food has been abundant for decades and decades, and that was not the case even just 50 years ago, and in many countries, right? With the abundance and availability of cheap food, most of us have overeaten. We take too much calories, and we eat too much processed food, preserved food, and these are not good to our health. And there are a few major root causes for diseases that reduce our health span. And unfortunately, these root causes are becoming more and more abundant. We can dive into some of the details like chronic inflammation that most people should know. Chronic inflammation is one of the most fundamental root causes of all major diseases. And the food that we eat actually can cause chronic inflammation. And that's one of the underlying causes that we need to think about and try to prevent.
That brings up a thought for me, Anita, about, and you have younger kids than I do, and I was thinking about like the school programs and some of the food that we're consuming these days is not the same kind of food that when I was growing up. I'm a little more vintage than the rest of us here, probably. So I'm thinking, if you had or you consume things like your mother or your grandmother or your great grandmother consumed, but in better quantities, it seems like to me, remove the processed food, remove the sugars, remove the corn syrup, things like that. Is that what you're talking about in terms of the food and consumption that we're talking about, and how does that impact us?
Yes, absolutely. And not only just in school food. I mean, school food is particularly bad. But in even the everyday food that most people consume, we consume too much carbohydrate, too much unhealthy fat, and most importantly, many people don't have a balanced diet. And you can go to some extremes in terms of diet and food intake, but very simple things that everyone can do is to have a balanced diet. You want to have all the nutrients. You don't want to load up with carbohydrates, with fat. And unfortunately, with the fast food industry, we just consume way too much calories. We consume way too much carbohydrate, and that is the way that food can be preserved and made available to many people at a cheaper price, and that's not good for our health. And many people know it, but unfortunately, not enough people really pay attention to what they eat. And it's the quality of the food, the quantity of the food, and the balance of nutrition, and all these are important. I'm not a nutritionist, but what I tell people is you really want to limit the amount, choose the food rightly, plant-based, a lot of fruits, vegetables, these are all good, and you don't want to take too much calories than your body really needs. With the amount of food that we need to consume is probably about 50% of what we normally would eat.
Yeah.
If you just do the few simple things, you can really improve your health.
A couple of things to that, Russ, to what you said as well. And yes, we're not eating the same food as our grandparents and great grandparents, but we're also not moving and being active the same ways they are. We're not necessarily out there working the land, and it's so whatever they may had a similar diet to some extent, but they worked it off differently than we do. But I want to say also, just for those of you that know or don't know, I'm not American, I'm European. And I will say that was a huge transition for me moving to the US, was the food. And everybody I know from Europe comments on that as well. The amount of processed food here and the portion sizes is, I can eat the same amount of food back home, but it's fresh food. It's less ingredients. It's just fresher and more. It's not as processed, and it's quality ingredients. It's not that abundance of fat. It's not the mega sizes. I think that's just a lot of the culture here as well.
Yeah, when I was born in China. When I went to France to study my PhD, my doctoral degree, I gained 10 pounds during the 5 years I stayed in France. I went from 100 pounds to 110 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
And after I moved from France to the US, very quickly I went from 110 pounds to 150 pounds.
Yeah.
I used to like the burgers, the McDonald's, the food, it tastes good, but that's a major problem. So if you look at the scientific data, one of the major issues that we have as a modern society is what we call oxidative stress, or free radicals. Free radicals are produced as a byproduct when we break down food to make ATP, the energy for our cells. This is an unavoidable process. Okay, if you just look at white people, Caucasians, in the US, over 70% have very high oxidative stress or very high amount of free radicals. And the Caucasians in Europe, the genes are the same, right?
Mm-hmm.
The genetic factors don't change between Caucasians in Europe and Caucasians in America.
Right.
In Europe, only about 30% or less have moderate oxidative stress. There's a huge difference between what we have in the US and what the Europeans have.
Yeah.
And that has to be related to the lifestyle, the food, the activities.
To food culture here. Yeah.
You can compare. If you compare Asians, let's say Chinese living in America versus Chinese living in China, there's also a huge difference. Well, now, the Asian countries are becoming more westernized in terms of lifestyle. That's an unfortunate trend. But still, America is particularly bad with the amount of food that's available, with the way that we cook food here, and this is something that we can do, we can change, and it's never easy, but it's important to make changes.
Yeah, sorry, Russ, I was
Go
about
ahead.
to jump in. I was going to say, okay, we didn't bring you here to talk about food, although this is a super interesting topic. Not only food, you have such an impressive background and you have a lot of accomplishments. Can you just let's take a step back and can you just share a little bit about your journey? Like what brought you to this point where you come up with the idea of Jinfiniti and decide, okay, I'm going to make this a business? Because you and I talked about this when we first met. We're like, longevity is a thing now. Everybody's talking about longevity. So how do you come around to this idea of launching Jinfiniti as a business?
So I have an academic research background. I was involved in research for almost 40 years, and my expertise is in testing. Is to develop medical tests and then bring the new tests into clinical applications, and that has always been my passion, my expertise. About 4 years ago, and I really became interested in how we can extend health span, and because I was not getting younger, and I want to stay active, I want to stay healthy. Now, what I realized is, if you want to stay healthy, you must know your body much better than you do.
Great point.
Yeah. And unfortunately, to bring a medical test to a hospital is extremely difficult. But there are constantly new information, new tests that are becoming important, that are becoming available, and I wanted to make the cutting edge science available to the everyday person. And my philosophy is, you really have to test, and you want to act based on the testing results. And with the testing results, you can optimize your health. So our strategy is what we call TAO, or TAO: test, act, and optimize. With this simple strategy, we can really change people's life. We can help them to prevent major diseases and improve their performance. And the only way that we can bring cutting edge knowledge and technologies to people is through commercialization. And academic scientists are not very good at entrepreneurship. And I worked had an interest in not only discovering new science, but I really want to make a difference to society. And the only way to do it is to bring the technologies to people who need it.
That's fascinating because the idea that you research this stuff and you have a certain idea or a result that these tests bring to the table, and then you increase and improve the tests to increase the value of the information being delivered. And then you have to learn the skill of being an entrepreneur to be able to get the tests to the people that want them.
Right.
So that whole sequence is stacking your skill set and your experience to benefit humanity, really. And I applaud you for doing that, because not everyone is willing to go to that extent to engage with the community, the scientific community, the business community, and also the the consumer itself. And so thank you so much for doing that. And it reminds me, when you were talking about that, about DNA testing and how much we're learning about the body and some other things that go into that. And does this fit in line with, somebody that's thinking, okay, there's a lot of keto diets, there's, carnivore, there's, vegan diets, there's all kinds of things that we hear. And we have to often think about what's right for me, what's right for my lifestyle, and what do I enjoy. So testing, how does that impact that result of discovery in your health journey? How can we come to you and say, Dr. She, help me out? What does this impact, and how can we move forward with this?
Sure. So testing basically serves two major purposes. The first one is we want to know what you are deficient in. Okay, what you are deficient in, and what I call sub-health issues you have. And sub-health is short for suboptimal health. We will have some sub-health issues, but without the testing, you don't know what sub-health issues you currently have, and that may predispose you to major diseases some years down the future. So a comprehensive test will tell you what are the issues you have. We want to use the testing information to identify the weakest links you have. It's not because of inflammation, you have too much free radicals, or you have too much sugar, or some other issues. So with the testing information, you can prioritize how you want to act. You can act in a personalized way, and you can act in a targeted way. So knowing what's wrong with your own body, what you are deficient in, is the first question you have to answer. Now, once you have this information in place, the second step is to take actions. And the actions need to be precise, personalized, and they have to be prioritized, and also it has to be holistically. And I have a 8-pillar strategy that's called proactive, predictive, prioritization, preventive, precision, personalization, parallel, and finally persistent. Because you cannot just act today and forget about it tomorrow and after tomorrow. Then in 5 days, oh gosh, I forgot, I need to act. That's not going to work. Okay. So I have these 8 pillars of health and longevity on our website. I was looking to the left because I have to put it on my computer screen to get one. So with these 8 pillars, you can really act upon the information you have. And finally, the second question is, we can use testing to evaluate the efficacy of your personalized health program. Most people are shooting in the dark. Oh, I'm going to take a vegan diet. I'm going to take a net diet. Or I'm going to exercise a little more. I may take some supplement. But do you know whether the actions you have taken are actually working for you or not?
Right.
How do you find out?
Yeah.
The only way, there are 2 ways to find out, and I think they're complementary. The first one is, how do you feel? Right? How do you feel is very important. I mean, absolutely important. But how do you feel alone is not enough. Because with many subtle changes, you may not feel. You really have to use, biomarker testing to tell you whether you're making progress. Are you at the optimum level? and so you can use the information to fine-tune your own health program. So it's a iterative process of thought, test, act, optimize, and you do it again and again.
So how does this process, as a entrepreneur and someone that helps individuals identify this process, how does that work in your business today? How do people approach that, and how do they interact with you?
That's what we do every day. Customers come to us and through our website or through their own doctors, because we partner with many clinics, and we will perform a test. Depending on how comprehensive they want, you can do one test, you can do multiple tests, and you can do up to 200 different tests. For the vast majority, for the vast majority of people, and I would recommend a panel of 23 biomarkers that will cover the most important aspects of your health.
But when you say test, like what exactly? I'm assuming I'm talking a regular blood test like you do at the checkup.
Well,
so what does it involve?
Basically, you get a blood sample either through a finger prick or through a venous blood draw by a phlebotomist, and they send the blood back to our laboratory in Georgia. And in the laboratory, we are going to use magic to analyze the blood sample you send it to us, and we.
So it really is just a blood sample.
It's just a blood sample.
Okay.
Basically. You don't need to do anything. If you want, you can do a finger prick. If you don't want to do it, you can go to your doctor and they will draw the blood and ship it to us. Very, very simple to sign up.
So you can't necessarily, you can go and see, okay, what are you lacking now? What could you be prone to based on, like you said, what is subpar in your health, basically.
Yeah.
But you can't go as far as seeing what are you genetically prone to? What are genetically things that could come up later?
We can test for genetic markers, but I do not advocate for genetic testing except for very rare diseases that have a very strong genetic background. It's basically determined by genetics. So what we test at Jinfiniti is the outcome of the interaction between genes and the environment, including your lifestyle, internal and external environment. So your health and everything you have is really an interaction between the genes and the environment, but there are too many things to test at the genetic level, too many things to test at the environmental level. Instead of testing all of those, we test how the interactive outcome between the genes and the environment. So that's why we can test a relatively small number of markers and tell you what you need, how good is your health, and what you need to do to stay healthy for decades and decades to come.
So if someone goes to get tested and you identify a few things that they need to change in their nutrition, lifestyle, etc., whatever happens to that outcome, and then what interval would it be 6 months? They would change some things in their life and then check in with another test later on. What's the recommendation for that?
Exactly. So after testing, we give them a very comprehensive report. I mean, 40 pages of report, and we explain to them the causes, and we explain to them what are the potential actions. And very often, they can schedule a consultation meeting with us, and very often with me personally, because I enjoy talking to them. And we give them tips. if they have a doctor, we can work with their doctor to come up with the plan. And with actions guided by the testing result, we can recommend retesting in 3 months or 6 months, depending on what issues they have. And in terms of actions, they can be nutraceuticals. It can be sometimes pharmaceuticals if they already have some diseases. And lifestyle is certainly a major component of it.
Absolutely.
And we see very good outcomes with this program because it's personalized, it's targeted. It's very simple to do.
Do you work with nutritionists and health providers in the field to coordinate some of this information?
Yeah, we do. And some customers have their nutritionists. If they don't, we can provide suggestions on nutrition as well.
I could see a lot of collaboration happen as an entrepreneur.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I have a very specific question because I'm still back on the testing here. I'm like trying to get my head around it. So just probably oversharing here, but I have a blood disorder. I have factor V Leiden, which I'm sure you're familiar with. And it caused me like serious health concerns some years back because I didn't know I had it because it's genetic and we had it in my family. So after we discovered I had it, all my cousins and everybody went out and got tested to make sure they didn't have it as well and what risk could they potentially encounter, right? So that's not something that would be discovered in a regular blood test at the doctors unless they're specifically looking for it. Is that something that would be discovered with the biomarker testing?
We are not going to discover specific genetic factors responsible for specific situation. But what we can tell you is you are having some major health issues. And what are the potential sources of the problem? And you may have to conduct additional tests to find out the cause or the causes. And our test is designed to evaluate your overall health, like how well you are doing, and do you need to pay more attention in certain aspects. And it's very hard to design a program to cover every single possible causes or problems, and that would become very expensive. Can we do it? Yes, we can do it, but that's not what.
But it's not necessarily considered for the initial.
Yeah, it's not what we specialize in, and we specialize in uncovering the sub-health issues that will cause problems for you in the future. And we want
so you could potentially discover some of the symptoms, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I was just curious. That was personal curiosity. Like, is that how would that work in this case? So thank you.
That's a great question, Anita.
Well, but I will be able to detect. Well, you are having this issue.
Right, exactly.
Issues you need to conduct more tests to find out what's going on and why you are having this issue. That could include additional genetic testing.
Are there any ethical concerns, any risks, anything involved with this testing that the consumer needs to know about? Or it's just like, to me, it sounds like it's a straightforward blood test and they just test for a lot more than you would normally do. Or am I oversimplifying it?
No, you're not. So our focus is on what I call actionable biomarkers. What does it mean? I mean, it's actionable, meaning that you can act on the information that we are providing to you.
Yeah.
Right?
So you can actually do something. You can do cause and effect.
Yeah. You can do something about what we found out. I cannot guarantee you that we're going to find out with 100% of certainty that you have no other medical concern. But by and large, the vast majority of medical concerns would cause a change in the biomarkers that we test.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have an example of some success
there are
stories?
ways that you can act upon the information, and so you can minimize or eliminate the concern. That's how we can extend your health span. Action, actionable information. That's really the key word.
I would imagine you have some success stories in terms of somebody that changed something in their life that made a huge impact on their outcomes because they discovered something in your test that they had no awareness of.
Yeah. I mean, there are many customers that we have helped, and I'll give you one common finding that was somewhat surprising to me, but it shouldn't be. We work with a lot of biohackers. You know what's a biohacker, right?
Yeah.
Biohackers are individuals who self-experiment with new treatment or just new ways to improve their own health. And unfortunately, quite a large number of biohackers are actually having serious issues. One of the major issues that I see is kidney toxicity. Because some of the products they take may not be checked for toxicity and side effects, and that's causing pretty serious concern to me. So I had to tell them, no, you got to look at everything you're taking and look for nephrotoxicity or toxicity to the kidneys, or you need to reduce the dose. And your kidney problem is one of the major causes of reduced health span.
Yeah.
And so, we have worked with integrative cardiologists, and we have a new product and that can be used to not only treat but potentially prevent heart failure. It's one simple supplement, and that's pretty amazing.
That is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Well, I'm fascinated by this. And obviously, we can always improve our health. We can always improve our outcomes. And we often don't have the information we need to make those incredibly valuable decisions. We can make adjustments and say, okay, do I feel better or do I feel worse? And it's not always, it's kind of like shooting in the dark. It's like, oh, did it work or did it not work? So having these tests and having this process and having this information available, just have to thank you for sharing this information today, Dr. She.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm very fascinated with it as well, and I'm like geeking out on science here, so it's it's just fun to learn about. Where do you see Jinfiniti going next? Like, what's next for you? Where does it evolve from here?
Well, let's talk a little bit about the present. I'm still at the present now, because we now for starters, I mean, if you are not familiar with testing, you are overwhelmed by the information. I want to give your listeners one tip. So that is, you want to start with one simple test and one simple supplement. That's going to change your life with, I would say, 80 to 90% confidence. Okay, I don't want to say 100%. I'm a scientist. I'm not going.
Yeah.
I want to be very precise because I say 80 to 90% because I have the data. Okay, so that is to get your one particular test done. They call it NAD, nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide. The NAD is you can call it a vitamin that's required for the function of over 500 different enzymes in your body. And the number one function of NAD is to allow your cells to produce energy for the cells, and that's called ATP. ATP is the energy for cells. Without ATP, you cannot live, you cannot do anything, you cannot perform. But without NAD, you cannot produce ATP. The deficiency in NAD is responsible for some 80% of the chronic fatigue syndrome that many people experience. You know, how many people complain about being tired in the afternoon or in the evening?
Right.
Most likely, that's because you don't have enough NAD. Okay? We can test you to find out whether you are deficient in NAD, but you have a very high chance of being deficient, almost 100%. If you are in your 50s, 60s, I think most business leaders are probably in close to that age range. We have a fantastic supplement that can correct the NAD deficiency for 90% of people. And you are going to feel more energetic, you are going to have higher productivity, and you are going to have a much better life. You are going to sleep better. You may reduce inflammation, pain at the back, joints, and so I can sit here and talk about the potential improvement, health benefit for hours and hours. But I'm not going to bother you with that. If I cannot help you, if I cannot optimize your NAD level and provide health benefits, I refund everyone's money. That's a promise that I keep to all our customers. I would highly, highly recommend everyone to get an NAD test and get a supplement to try to see what can be the miracle benefit that you are going to experience. If you don't like it, it doesn't cost you anything.
That's fantastic.
This is the starting point. If you are not a biohacker, if you are not in this health optimization mode, but it's on me, and I will do it for you. If you get a benefit, and we'll continue to work together. If you don't, it's free.
Yeah.
Great.
That brings up another point, Dr. She, that I think is a personal, like Anita, this is a personal question that I have, is that, I'm a caregiver for my mother. She's 86. She takes a lot of pharmaceuticals for her health issues. And I would love, one of the ideas that I've always had, because I'm not one to necessarily, take drugs. However, I know in some cases it's necessary. And she takes a lot of pharmaceuticals, and I'm thinking there has to be something that we could find out that is she taking too much of anything, or the combination of drugs causing any kind of inflammation, irritation, dizziness, headaches, whatever, symptoms she has. And how do you look at that? And how do you think about that? So before we wrap up today, I'd be kind of curious about your thoughts on that.
I think you bring up an extremely important point, and I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to address. If you look at our current so-called healthcare system, I think Anita and I will talk about. It's not a healthcare system we have in in this country and in many
Right.
other countries. It's a
Let's
sick
not get
care.
started on that.
It's a sick care system.
Mhm.
Okay, we're not taking care of health. We're taking care of sickness, the symptoms. We want to fundamentally change how we deal with health. With health care, you're caring for healthy people.
Yeah.
How many people are caring for healthy people in our society? Not too many. I mean, there are some. That's part of what I want to change. And that's one problem. We're dealing with the sickness, the disease issues, we're not dealing with health. The second point I want to make is the current setup of our so-called healthcare system are highly specialized, compartmentalized. You go 90% of the time to see a specialist. If you have a problem with your eye, you see a ophthalmologist. If you have a problem with kidney, you are going to see a nephrologist. They don't know what other problems you have. They don't have the time to look after the other problems you have. And it's not their problem. Okay? The doctors have tunnel vision. Why do I know? Because I trained many of them. I was part of the problem. And
you've been there.
been there, and I'm not a physician. Okay, I'm an educator, and I'm a scientist. I'm an educator, but I educate doctors, and we need to change how the doctors are trained, and we need to change how they practice. The whole system needs to become more integrative, more holistic. I mean, some people may think holistic medicine is a bad word, but what I mean by holistic may be slightly different. Holistic to me is you take an overall approach. You take care of the whole body instead of one small or big organ. And that's not how we're going to solve the problem. And because of the compartmentalized care system, many drugs may be overprescribed. Some of the drugs may interact with each other and cause side effects or reduce the efficacy. And the third point I want to make is we are not treating the root causes of the problem for the patient. We are only treating the symptoms.
Yeah.
What are the root causes? Inflammation, free radicals, and there's another term I don't want to really bother you called zombie cells. In science is senescent cells. Those are cells that are dying, but they refuse to die, and they secrete a bunch of bad juices that make your healthy organs not function as well. And these are the issues that underlie all major diseases. If you only treat one organ at a time, you are not going to be able to make the person healthier and better.
Yeah.
We need to completely and fundamentally change how we practice medicine. And fortunately, that's what functional medicine or integrative medicine are about. And they are becoming more and more popular in America and in other countries as well. And that's what the traditional Chinese medicine or some of the Oriental medicine is really about. And I'm trying to bring some of the principles in holistic medicine with the help of modern technology into what we do. So it's a combination of East, West, modern technologies, and old and new philosophies, and putting them all together. We are outcome oriented. We are efficacy oriented. We try to provide solutions to take care of the whole person, not just a piece of of your skin or one kidney. You know, you got to look at the whole person.
Yeah, absolutely. I really appreciate that, and be more than happy to support you in that journey, because I believe that we have a long way to go. And when we're looking at medicine holistically, it's much better than just saying, "Hey, you got a gallbladder attack. Let's just take you out your gallbladder,"
Yeah.
which I've had experience with. So it's like, let's not do that. Well, Anita, before we wrap up today, because this has been a fascinating and very informative conversation, Dr. She, and thank you so much for being here. Is there anything else you need to or want to comment or question today, Anita?
Yeah, I think this has been great. I love the East meets West principle that you're kind of running everything under here. It's we'd love to have you back another time. I'm sure we can talk another hour on this, definitely.
Yes,
if not a few hours. So, but this has been great, and I really appreciate the impact you make on people's lives and their health. So, definitely. We're going to put you backstage, and then Russ and I will wrap up, and we will join you shortly.
Okay.
Thank you so much again for joining us today.
So, what are your thoughts?
So many great takeaways from this conversation. I think health is so personal to everybody. Everybody has opinions, different experiences. I think one of the key things that kept coming up for me as we're talking about this is the focus on prevention. You don't know, to have that ability to know what you need to focus on and prevent it. I think it's such a huge health benefit, and it kind of goes to what we talked about in today's healthcare system. There is no focus on prevention necessarily, at least here in the U.S. And
I have to agree with you. And if we could get to a place where we think about and understand what our own bodies need, what's the easiest path for me to feel better? Because if I can start my nutrition to feel better, get more energy, everything else, then I can move more. And also there's a lot of information out there that is not necessarily designed for my body. It's designed for somebody's body, and it works for somebody's nutritional needs, or, the way their body works, but not mine.
Which we also talked about. You got to get to know your body, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's fascinating. So thank you, Anita, for allowing me the opportunity to be part of the show and
thank you.
Guest on.
And I truly appreciate Dr. She's basically what he said, which I love, is taking the science to the mainstream and sharing it with everybody. Don't keep it at the science level, but bring it to the mainstream and make it actionable. So yeah.
It's fantastic.
Thank you. Thanks to everyone that tuned in today. Make sure you keep in touch with myself and Nancy and Russ to see what else we have going on. Russ, where can people go to learn about your latest ventures?
Yeah, you, as a creator, you can always connect with the newsletter, the Pirate Syndicate, and get inspired and updated on trends and information around the creative process. More than happy to connect and collaborate and have a conversation with you online. Just look up Russ Johns anywhere. I can be found on your favorite platforms. So happy to connect.
So make sure you do that. And you can, if you want to know more about the biomarker testing and what Jinfiniti does, go to jinfiniti.com and reach out to Dr. She and learn more about that as well. Take your step to prevention and learn more about your body.
And make an impact today.
Make an impact today. Next week, we have another exciting guest. We're going to be speaking with Trina Bolden Fields from Bolden Fields Coaching. And we're going to learn a lot about her amazing journey to entrepreneurship and what other entrepreneurs can take away from her experiences and the impact she has on the lives of her clients. So until next week, go make an impact.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you for listening to Impactful Business Voices. Subscribe now and don't miss an episode.